Being in a narcissistic marriage specifically, because toxic is a little different, but narcissists are so good at convincing you that you are a certain way.
The Interesting Conversations with Interesting People podcast series with author Nigel Beckles.
Welcome to the podcast.
Please like the podcast and subscribe to this channel. Thank you.
Have you experienced several failed relationships or been through a divorce? How can you avoid making the same mistakes again? How to avoid making the big relationship mistakes is out now.
Hi, my name is Nigel Beckles. My book is packed with practical and common sense strategies that you can use to make better relationship choices.
Now you can discover the dangerous myths about love. If your relationship expectations are realistic, why you could be falling in love for all the wrong reasons.
How to avoid making the big relationship mistakes. It's a book that could change your life.
Available from amazon.co.uk. Kindle version also available.
Get ready for takeoff.
Welcome back to my Interesting Conversations with Interesting People podcast series. My guest for this episode is a survivor of a 25-year abusive marriage and now an empowerment coach for women, Tina A. Hull. Hello, Tina. Welcome to my podcast series. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks, Nigel. How are you doing?
I'm very well here in the UK. So where do you live at the moment?
Well, I live in the Caribbean on a very small island called St. Kitts and Nevis, and I'm on the smallest island of the Federation.
How long have you lived there?
So I'm originally from Toronto, and I moved here almost 22 years ago.
Oh, you're a veteran then?
Yes, I am.
So I understand you've been in an abusive marriage. So how long were you with your husband?
Yeah. So we were together for about 25 years, dating and then marriage. Yeah.
Okay. So when did you realize you were in a abusive relationship?
So I was unhappy for a long time. And I remember writing in my journal, I wish and prayed for a happier, healthier marriage, but I didn't have the language for it as abusive until I was out of it, oddly enough. And even still, my brain resisted the fact that as an educated woman, I could end up in abusive marriage. Like that just didn't compute for me. And so it probably took me about a year and a bit before I realized, yep, I've been emotionally and mentally abused through this narcissistic marriage. And it was parts of me that resonated with him that attracted him in the first place. But I also realized that there was a pattern. So there was this one day I'm standing in my bedroom and I have this memory of my mother and the way she was treated by my father. And I'm thinking, okay, he probably had some tendencies. Then I recall being in a toxic work environment and there was tendencies there. And then, of course, I'm in a marriage of that sort. So it made sense when I look back in hindsight. But at the moment, I was like, why?
Well, recovering from a toxic relationship can take a long time. What do you think are the biggest obstacles that people face after they've escaped?
So being in a narcissistic marriage specifically, because toxic is a little different, but narcissists are so good at convincing you that you are a certain way and that you don't deserve and you're not worthy and you're not good enough. And so unraveling all of that was a challenge. And I had to question all my beliefs because they had been instilled in me for the 25 years. And then obviously there was some element of truth to it from my childhood as well. So I've been living with this kind of energy for a long time. And I realized, damn, like, how is it possible? But, and it's so interesting, Nigel, because you think that I mean, I was a pretty confident woman going into the marriage. I knew who I was, I thought, in the marriage, so it was kind of shocking to me when I started unraveling it all, realizing these things.
So you're a woman's empowerment coach. So how did you become interested in that type of work?
Well, I saw my mom go through a lot of stuff through her marriage, and I have always been an empowering personality, and women specifically, because a lot of abuse tends to be towards women. And so I was seeing a fair amount of it, and I was aware of a fair amount of it. And I can see your highest and best self. So it only made sense for me then to become the coach that's going to empower you as your highest and best self. So I don't stay in the dredges of everything. So when you start telling your story, if you go too deep into that downward spiral and you become part of it again, I try to pull you back up gently so that you're not staying in it.
So I understand your work includes energy healing and quantum healing. What do those practices involve?
So I believe as a human being, we are all encompassing. So there's mindset work. I bring in the universal laws, self-care, self-love, self-trust, which we lose a lot, especially in that narcissistic relationship, because we don't know who we are anymore. So we're rebuilding who we are and from who we've become. And then the energy is removing all the heavy emotional abuse that we've been instilled on us, that have weighed us down, that have been stored in our cells, because heavy emotions get stored at the cellular level. So I had no intention of getting sick from this experience. That was not my desire at all. So it's also my desire to help my clients not get that to that point. I also, and it all works together because, as I said, we're a human whole being, not bits and pieces and parts. So I am a massage therapist initially. And so I knew the body part. And then I started working on the mindset part, and I realized the two had to join. And now I'm also working on the soul part. So it's all encompassing.
So how do those approaches benefit your clients?
Because they can heal quicker and gentler. So it doesn't have to be a long, drawn out talking session, because a lot of it is removing all those emotions that usually we end up talking about. But it becomes this cycle. So you talk about it, it brings you down, and then you feel depressed or upset or whatever the residual feeling is. And then you stay in that energy, and you're not really brought back up. Whereas with the energy work, you're removing all of that so that the person can shed that energy and then rise and be attractive and be magnetic and be in a restorative energy instead of that low level energy. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. You've mentioned narcissistic abuse a few times. Mm-hmm. So what practical steps can someone take to rebuild their self-worth and their self-esteem?
Yeah, so that takes time, but it can be a concerted effort, and it can go pretty quickly. But again, the biggest one is questioning your beliefs about everything. So if you've got a mind chatter in your head that says, "Oh, I'm not good enough," or "You're not capable," or "You're stupid," or whatever your ex-partner told you, and then you question it. Is it true? Usually it's not true. It's their perspective. It's them trying to beat you down. And then you ask yourself, whose voice is it? And you'll find out very quickly it's not your voice. It's not you telling yourself that. And then you reframe it. So that's the mindset piece. Then you want to love on yourself. Give yourself the love, the compassion, the care that you need and desire. And look at actually, we lose ourselves to the point where we don't even know who we are, and oftentimes don't know what we want and desire, because we've been told that that's not safe to ask for anything. So we have to shift ourselves. So now we're like, okay, I'm the priority. What am I going to do? How am I going to move forward? And what is the next steps? And that's where the trust comes in. And the trust takes a little bit longer because the trust has been lost. We have abandoned ourselves through the entire relationship, and we continue to do it. We continue to gaslight ourselves after the fact, which is kind of crazy, but it's what's been built into us. So we want to acknowledge it, realize that our ego mind, it's part of the comfort zone, and it's what we're used to. And again, used to from even childhood. And so we adapted to believe that we are unworthy, undeserving, not good enough. There's usually the top three. And then we put on what I call clay masks. So we actually have survival identities like people pleaser, overachiever, hypervigilant, over independent or hyper independent. And those kind of masks are what's leading our lives. So we're still in a survival state. It just looks different. It's not actually who we are. So what my job is to remove all that. So you're in your sovereign identity. You're in your highest and your best self. How I see it, Nigel, is we are a human being. And over the years, we've been caked on layer and layer and layer and layer of clay. And we've got to remove it all. So we have to chisel all of that off of us. And then we rise to the person that we're meant to be.
So do you work with women in general, or do you specialize helping women who have suffered abuse in relationship?
So I have in the past, and I'm transitioning into the identity piece stronger. And the reason why is because identity is at the core of it all. And I realized that without the identity piece, then it doesn't really matter. We still can stay in that survival identity. And we need to step out of the wounded shadow self into that highest and best self. And it's interesting because then I'm attracting different kinds of women. So yes, I work with women who have been in narcissistic relationships, but they're out of it. So they've been out of it for probably a year or two, and they're now wanting not just to survive. And this is usually what happens. We just go into this constant either healing loop, or we're in that survivor mode where we're still a bit of victim, and we're still reacting and responding to our outside environment. We're still looking for validation from other people. And that's not being in your personal power. That's not being who we're meant to be. We're meant to be in our personal power, have our boundaries, be solid in knowing who you are, and coming and doing everything from that energy.
It sounds easier perhaps than it actually is. I mean, how much work does someone have to undertake to actually find a place of healing after they've been in an abusive relationship?
Yeah, good question. I would say it's tough to quantify because it depends on how much work you do. So when I was in my marriage, I was doing a lot of personal development. So I was aware of a lot of these things already. And so I can't really tell you because I don't know how long. There wasn't like a day where I woke up and went, oh, I'm healed. I'm feeling better. So it can take a year or so. And some of that I work with other coaches, and some of that I worked on myself. And I took courses and programs and different things to help me evolve and grow. But we never stop growing anyway. So it's a constant thing. And truthfully, Nigel, and I'm sure you've had this experience yourself, is that it's going to be layers that we're releasing. And so those layers are going to creep back up. And you're going to go, oh, damn, I thought I healed that part of me. Why is this still there? Well, sometimes the universe puts these people into our experience to say, okay, let's see if you really have healed. Have you healed? How much more? Maybe you have to heal some more, or it's still a trigger and it's still something that you need. So it's layers and layers and layers. And what I noticed for myself is that it took me a long time at the beginning. And then once you start to heal, when it happens again, it takes less time. And then it happens again, it takes even less time. It happens again, it's like minutes, and as opposed to days and months. So everybody is different, but that's how I would explain it. It's not necessarily time as far as months and years go. I would say it's time as how much certain triggers affect you. Does that make sense?
I think what you're saying is that there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution.
Oh, of course not. No. We're complicated human beings.
Yeah, but then saying that, I guess, in terms of triggers, I mean, again, that isn't really a one-size-fits-all solution either. Different people have different triggers. Some people might get triggered by a smell. Some people can get triggered by a sound. So
100%. Yeah. So it's finding, I mean, obviously when you're working with a coach, then you're going to know what those triggers are because it's going to come out at some stage, and then you deal with them accordingly. If you're going to do it on your own, you need to just be consciously aware when you are triggered. So what does that look like? Well, someone comes up to you and says something really mean. Someone cuts you off when you're driving. How do you react? How do you respond? Do you automatically push back? Do you cuss at the person who did that? Or do you take a nice deep breath and just go about your day? You've got a smile on your face.
Well, I'm just thinking easier said than done sometimes.
Well, yes and no. So the reason why I say no is because, again, if you're doing the work, it can be released. So I'll give you an example. My ex-husband used to yell and scream at me, cuss at me, call me all sorts of names, and he would do it in front of my girls. And so what did I do initially? I would react back. I would do the same thing. And I remember this one coach saying, you don't have to accept their invitation to go into the argument. I'm like, oh, isn't that interesting? It's a choice. We don't have to be like that. Wow. Okay. So then there was one day, and he made me so mad, Nigel. I was just fuming, and I was cussing, and I was reacting, and I was responding. And I went to bed that night, and I was so upset at myself because I didn't like who I was being. So I made a concerted effort, and I decided right then and there, I was not going to be that person anymore. So I'm in my office, I'm at the desk, I'm at the computer, I'm working. He's come stopping down the hallway. He stops at the doorway and he starts cussing me out, and he's calling me effing this and effing that. And I have no idea what he was going on about. I just looked at him, took a nice deep breath, and went back to work because I wasn't available for that. I'd healed that part of me.
It's called reactive abuse. So initially you were reacting to the abuse, and then you found a way to calm yourself and not to react. With abusers, that's what they want, the reaction. They feed off of it. So once you don't give them anything to feed off of, they've got nowhere to go.
100%.
So Tina, how can people contact you?
I am all over the internet. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, on YouTube. Email is tinashealingandcoaching@gmail.com. And that's the best place to actually reach out to me and or DMs on social.
Tina in the Caribbean, thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Nigel.
Please join me, author Nigel Beckles, for interesting conversations with interesting people, featuring interviews with award-winning authors, relationship and life coaches, therapists, and a wide variety of people with intriguing stories to share. Interesting conversations with interesting people.
Please follow author Nigel Beckles' podcasts on Amazon Audible, Spotify, and all major podcasting platforms. Thanks.